Welcome to Fantasy Thinker. I'm Jared. It's time once again to catch up on my reviews. So I have some four books here that I've haven't gotten a chance to review yet. In a written individual basis, and I'm running out of time. So these are some off the cuff reviews. This is not scripted like I usually do with some of my more in-depth reviews, um, these are the books that I've finished recently within the past 2 months or so that I just haven't gotten around to talking about. And so, other than my monthly updates and what have you, so let's talk about these books for a few minutes here. The first one I'm going to talk about it was a bit of a disappointment to me. And this is Reamde by Neal Stephenson. So this book is a 1,000-page book that we read as part of our read along on Speculations, and it was, to say the least, very disappointing in its presentation, in its structure, in its lack of character building, um, and mostly because of the potential it had to be something better. So that was really what got to me was I wanted this book to be good because I kind of liked some of the premises, and I liked um and I liked the introduction of the characters and who they were, and I wanted to see more. And like in some cases we were given more, but it was in a strange way structurally in how it was presented. And I didn't enjoy that at all. So this book is about a computer virus. Reamde is obviously a mixed around README type of virus. And first of all, it's not really science fiction. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it was more of a computer virus spy thriller mashup. So the the setting focuses on this man who was once he was once a smuggler. This is not spoilery. This stuff comes out right away, and he he eventually went legit, basically, and started this business. And this business was basically it's a ripoff of World of Warcraft. This computer game that he started, and it took off. It becomes a big success and what have you. And so um, there was plenty of instances in the book where Stevenson was explaining his game world that this guy created, and I thought those parts were actually kind of fascinating in that they really delved into the game world and stuff like that. And of course, the uh it, the virus, the Reamde virus, is eventually gets introduced into this game world, but oddly enough, it doesn't really matter that much to the plot at all. Um, and it's very strange how the characters in the novel get involved into this weird spy thriller plot in the midst of explaining this interesting game that this guy created. And um, there's a lot of talk in the book about the uh, the aspects of the game and how people um, get drawn in and get basically addicted, just like people did with World of Warcraft, and would play for hours on end and never stop, and forget to eat and forget to drink and stuff. So um, that was that's just how weird the book was when it presented all this interesting stuff and then forgot about it, and then we get this spy thriller where these innocent people get involved, and that has to do more with the computer virus because there's blackmail involved, and there's all this weird stuff. And so um you know different nationalities get involved. It ends up in China, and all these different um, players. These different. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? See, this is the problem with offer coverage reviews. I can't think of the words. But anyways, all all these different players are involved, and they want to get these guys who created this virus, and then it turns out because of some strange decision that it's more about revenge instead of getting the guy who made the virus. And so, and that gets kind of forgotten, and it gets in the mix. And there was also stuff like you wanted to like these characters. You wanted to like the Reamde, the characters involved in this thriller aspect of it. But every time you think you are going to get some characterization where these characters, have this epiphany or a grow or whatever, um, it falls flat. And it was like there was certain scenes where a character would encounter something, and then all of a sudden he spends 4 or 5 pages explaining to you why the character is able to deal with this situation because of something in their past. Instead of having this setup and build up where this past was laid down beforehand and could have foreshadowed the event that was coming so that you already knew how the character would deal with that situation as part of as part of the flow of the story. He would just stop what was happening, explain the past, and then the character would deal with the situation. And it was interruptive. It was bad format, basically, in my opinion. And it really bugged me every time he did that. And it led to the characters just being flat pieces who had convenient backstories in the moment that they needed them. And so that's what that's how Reamde failed for me. I thought the book was gonna get better towards the end, and then the ending just fall flat. Yeah, it died. It died. Um, it didn't make sense why some of these characters all of a sudden were friends, and it just didn't make sense. It was unfortunate, but we did have a blast talking about this book, to be honest with you, and it also gave us a great appreciation for some of the other stuff that we read. So every book serves its purpose, right? And so while I'm glad I didn't just throw it back at the library that I got it from halfway through, and I finished it off. It did not hold up to my expectations for a Stevenson novel, especially when I heard so much about some of his other stuff, especially like Snow Crash, and he has some big sci-fi books that he's written, and so that's Reamde by Stevenson. All right, and that's probably gonna be my longest review today because I had a lot to say about what I didn't like about it. But anyways, on to the next thing. This next one I've been talking about quite a bit on my channel. If anybody has followed my Comics versus Prose series, you know that I'm talking about Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is quite the unique experience for me because I read this book very slowly as the comic book was coming out. So I read it concurrently with the comic coming out. And so it took me like a very, very long time to finish this book. And I will tell you guys, full, what do you see? There's this words thing again. But anyways, full confession here. No, that's not the word. But anyways, um, the the way I read this book in the comics is not the best way to do it. Because I was basically reading the book twice every chapter. I was reading every chapter twice, and and it's not, like I said, it's not the best way to do it. I think it lessened my enjoyment of the book, and I think it lessens my enjoyment in the book to be stopping every 2 seconds to write, a whole bunch of notes and stuff like that, and so yeah, you see that, and so I think, I apologize for anybody who's freaked out by me writing in a book. It's just a paperback, it's okay. Um, but, I don't think it's the best way to read this, so if you're going to read this book, do yourself a favor and just read it straight through. Then you can go check out the comics, or vice versa, whatever the case may be. But read all the comics first, or read all the book first. Don't do it concurrently like I did. I think that actually hurt my enjoyment of the novel. That said, for the novel itself, for this review, this is a great book. It's a great book. It's first person, told by our friend here, young Fitz, the bastard son of the noble Prince Chivalry. And so he's raised in the shadow of this royal court, and he's raised by the stable guy, Bjork, for the most part. And he has as he's young, he has his little adventures, and then something happens to get him into this position, which is the title here. So that is the main. That's where we start, and Fritz is a fascinating character because he's telling us the story from an older age, so we know he has a big life coming up ahead of him, and the the way he does it, the way that Hobb writes his narration is very engaging. It brings, it's all in Fitz's head. So you have to remember that it's Fitz telling the story. So you have to take some of the viewpoints with that in mind. And I think that's done very well in the book. I think, Fitz it's easy to get, involved in his world and really get to know him pretty well from this first book. And of course, this series is all over YouTube. It's a YouTube staple, I guess you would say. And so I've actually heard a lot about this series. Um, and that doesn't bother me. It's there's a lot of spoilery stuff that I've heard, and that's fine, because I know it's in the journey he has because Hobbes' writing is very pleasant to read. It's very, like I said, it's very engaging. It really captures your attention. And when I was reading this, I was like kind of wishing I didn't have to stop and take notes to compare it to the comic because I just kind of wanted to keep going and get immersed into the story. So the book is. I think this book has a solid plot. It has a pretty good resolution to that plot. It has a nice, not nice, it's actually kind of tragic, but it has a fulfilling ending to a singular story of Assassin's Apprentice, of this apprenticeship that Fitz goes through. And I think like the next book is called, I think, Royal Assassin, and that seems like the next chapter in Fitz's life. I think this is a good close to a chapter in his life. And so I really enjoyed it. Other than the way I read it, I think it's a really, really solid book. And I think a lot of people, if you're one of the few who hasn't read this series yet, like me, um, yeah, don't hesitate to pick it up. It's really, really good fantasy. I like the world she made. I like the that she has just it's pretty simple. It's like there's this six duchies or whatever it is, five duchies, six duchies, and it's a pretty simple map in the beginning here, and she keeps it that way on purpose because Fitz's life at this point is fairly simple. It's limited in he's limited in his exposure to the world, and so your exposure to this world is limited, and that's reflected in the tone of the book and in the map. And there are outside forces coming in, but they are foreign at this point, and they're not explored yet. I have a feeling that we'll be hearing a lot more. But very solid world building. Lots of hint of what the magic is, and lots of, and it's not like a overbearing magical presence on this world, but it's there, and and you know it, and Fitz is a part of it, and so all told, I enjoyed Assassin's Apprentice quite a bit. All right, moving on to Time Machine by H.G. Wells. This was another sci-fi masterwork classic that we read. It's part of our read along of all the sci-fi masterworks. That 15-year journey where I think we're 2 years in now. So that's pretty good. So the Time Machine by H.G. Wells is like one of the big classic, big name classic, from 1894, 1895, somewhere around there. And H.G. Wells he's around now for a reason. He was a really great storyteller, a master storyteller. And this little pamphlet, Time Machine, uh, it's only 90 something pages, so really it's a novella at most. And but at the time it came out, it was serialized, and then collected and called a novel. And it really stands up, I think, pretty well through the test of time. It's 130 years old almost. And the the societal issues that Wells brings forth in this book, he has a really strong viewpoints on communism, on evolution, and he's worried about the human race. He's worried about what we will come to, what we will turn into. Hmm, good stuff. All right, and he's worried. He's reflecting the worries and anxieties of the time that he lived in, and this shows, and this allows us, the reader, to imprint our own anxieties and worries about the future onto the book as we're reading it, and we can relate to that. We have the same fears, even though they may take a different shape. It's still a worry about the human race as the future goes on here, and that's what Wells was laying out. And it's a pretty simple thing, a pretty simple story. The time traveler is the one telling us the story through somebody else. There's a reporter who's telling us what the time traveler said, basically. So, that's kind of a 19th century type of structural thing. Somebody's telling us what somebody else said, and the and it's told in that, so it's kind of first person, even though it's first person through first person. All right. So, really cool stuff, though. Really cool stuff. It's the second time I read it. It's actually a reread for me, because I actually read The Time Machine maybe 25 years ago, long time ago. And I enjoyed it then. I enjoy it now. I see it for the masterpiece that it is. And next month, I'll be looking forward to The War of the Worlds, that by Wells as well. All right, so that's the Time Machine. All right, and for my final book for today, I am going to be talking about Mercy: Tears of the Fallen by our friend Chance Dillon, who was so kind to send me this advanced review copy. I finished this the end of last month, and this was quite the journey, I gotta say, Mr. Dillon. He You can tell he put his heart and soul into this. You can tell the effort that he put into it. Um, I know Chance; he's a really great guy, and but I want to, I want to give this an honest review as I can. So there were. Let me get the issues I had with it out of the way. There were a few things about it that bugged me a little bit. And this is, um, I think this was part of what Dillon was trying to do with the book. he was trying to immerse you in this story, and he was throwing a bunch of characters at you that you didn't know yet. And he has the glossaries, and he has the cast of characters in the beginning there, and he's trying to make this world a living, breathing thing. Whereas if you just entered it right now, yeah, you wouldn't know these people, and you'd have to try to figure it out as you go along. And so, as you're getting into this, you're trying to figure it out as you go along, and that works on some levels and works and doesn't work on other levels, I think. And I eventually, eventually you grasp on to a few characters, and eventually the narrative also grasps on to a few characters, which makes things clearer by the end. So if you are confused through the first third half of this book, then stick with it, because by the end you'll know who's who, and you'll be able to really get a good view of what to look for in these characters in this book. I think the world building in here is fantastic. You can tell it's you can definitely tell it's gaming based. This is a D&D world through and through, or pick whatever other game or you know equivalent role playing RPG or video game RPG that you want to choose. But it is definitely um, from those origins, and you can tell right off the bat from the map all the way through to the structure of the magic, and the and how the characters talk about their the magic in that structure within the book. And it's a pretty cool concept that Dillon came up with a different that the tiers are not actually tiers. I mean, that there's a lot of what do you call it? Uh, double meaning in the titles here. Mercy is a place, as well as the idea of mercy, and of course, tears of the fallen are actual artifacts. The tears are actual artifacts, but of course, the fallen people cry as well. So, but anyways, that and the explanation, and like I said, the magic explanations around these artifacts and around the characters and how they use magic and all that stuff, it is very well thought out, and the world is very well thought out. And that is confusing at first in the first third and half of the book, but that also becomes clear as the story and the narrative go on. The So I like that part of it. I liked some of the things that when the characters uh interact with each other, and they when Dylan is building characterization from the character interaction, that is when that's a strength of the book. That's when he's at his best. When he's building characters through action, that is kind of a weak point there. I think some of the action scenes went on a little too long, um, but that's some people might like that. I would have preferred those to be a little shorter, but some people might like that though. If you like action scenes and you like them described in a very fluent way, and like to see how it all plays out, then you will like that aspect of this book as well. So I really think that Mr. Dillon has something here. I really, I enjoyed most of what I was reading. I was able to, read it in a pretty good clip, good pace, and I was able to reflect on it afterwards and say, okay, yeah, you have a prologue here that touches upon things. You have the main plot coming out with the politics and stuff like that, the different kingdoms. Um, I haven't read Elden Ring, but I have a feeling that that's what he's going for, 'cause I think that's a video game online or something like that. But, um, that it just had that gaming feel. So, if you like that, you will like this as well. Uh, very, very good job, with By Chance Dillon. This is his debut book, so I have a feeling he's going to get better and better, as he, starts putting the threads of this world together and really making something of it. So, keep it up. I enjoyed it. I was concerned that the world, um, didn't have enough of its own colloquialisms. I think, it felt a bit too earth-based type, the dialogue and stuff like that at points, and so, I'm hoping that's something that will improve in the books to come, and, but, uh but that's these are minor nitpicks. Overall, it's a solid fantasy read. Um, and it's really, something to keep an eye on, and like I said, if you like things like the Elden Ring and stories like that, then you got definitely gonna wanna pick this up. Um, and it's pretty grim too, so keep that in mind. If you like grim, then this is gonna be a book for you as well. Alright. With all that said, those were all the books and reviews that I got. Um, for now. And hope you enjoyed that. Hope you can like and subscribe below and be good to each other. And thank you very much for watching.